Hey guys, Coach Marcia here from Balanced Jiu-Jitsu. Today I'm going to share with you a sequence from Adho Mukha Virasana, or the child pose. This will help you with your mount maintenance as well as getting into the S mount. You can see that the positioning is very similar, keeping my hips back and staying low so that I can redirect Logan's head to keep his back on the floor. I want to create an active child pose, so I'm going to lift my hands at the wrist and spread my fingers as I press my palms down into the floor. This will activate my arms and create length all the way from my hands into my hips. The idea of child pose is to lengthen the spine while keeping the abdomen soft. This will help relieve back pain and also helps the practitioner develop flexibility into the hips. We can mimic that redirection motion from the mount by walking both of our hands over to one side. We wanted to maintain equal length between the right side and the left side as we move to the right, pressing strongly down through the left hand and reaching strongly back through the left hip. You want to avoid crunching the right side, so try to focus on keeping space between the lowest rib and the hip bone. As I return to center, I can walk my hands forward and press my hips back so I can get an even deeper stretch. If you are finding these tips helpful in child pose, make sure you hit that like button and keep watching this video all the way to the end. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other, so walking your hands all the way over to the right. Here you can see Virasana in action as I redirect Logan's head and get his back on the floor. I also want to stay as low as I can here, giving him as little space as possible. After holding for an equal amount of time, we'll return back to center, curl our toes under, and then start to lift our hips up into downward facing dog. If these stretches are new to you, you're going to want to take a little bit of time in stretching your knees and backs of the legs out after being folded for such a long period of time. I also want to make sure that I'm not hyperextending my elbows, so turning my elbow creases to face each other. And then bending the right knee, I'll move into a modified pigeon pose, which also looks quite a bit like the S mount. Here I am achieving the S mount on Logan, keeping it nice and tight. This particular twist is designed to help relieve tension in the lower back. So then as we unwind, we will move into a forward-facing version of this pose and then trying to rest our chest down on that bottom knee and hopefully even our head down to the floor. This is a great stretch to hold if you're trying to increase your hip flexibility for jiu-jitsu. It's also a wonderful restorative pose after some hard rolling or any competition training. And then as we lift up, we'll return to downward dog, this time focusing on stretching my heels down towards the floor. And then repeating that modified pigeon stretch on the other side. Twisting back, looking over my shoulder, getting a nice stretch into my hips and into my lower abdomen. As you can see, practicing these S-mount poses really helps me keep a tight S-mount on Logan here, not letting him get out and potentially allowing me to set up a submission. After you've been in this position for a while, it's a good idea to stretch your legs back out, so we'll return to downward dog, making sure that we release the neck completely by lowering the head and making it heavy towards the floor. And then moving back into a modified child pose. And then just a nice little stretch I like to do for my shoulders is bringing my hands behind my head and walking my elbows away from my body. If you practice jiu-jitsu or are thinking about practicing jiu-jitsu, this is a great stretch for your shoulders. So for our final pose will be the more relaxing version of child pose, just sweeping our hands behind us and letting the fingers interlace behind the back. If you are interested in more yoga, make sure that you check out our yoga playlist or leave a comment, and I would love to make a sequence just for you. Have fun, make sure that you stretch.